My name is William Lupkin. I have been in the stained glass art since 1976, and I had the opportunity of studying under some truly great artists in the stained glass, and I have my own studio in Fort Wayne, which I have 3 of my sons involved in that business, and they are also featured in this show here at Ancilla. I'm inspired by color and texture first, and then the color and texture kind of dictate the motion of where the pieces are going to go. And as opposed to figurative work, the abstract stuff is more based on the texture and just the color of the glass. You know, in figurative work, you use color to enhance the figures. So. Well, glass is the only medium that actually you see through it, and it's affected by light. So as the light changes through the course of the day or through the course of the seasons, the glass changes its tonality. I mean, it will become brighter, darker, more subdued. Like in the fall or winter, it's obviously the tones become more subdued and darker. In the spring and summer, when the light's stronger, then they're much more vibrant.
I'm Peter Lupkin. I'm an oil painter. I got my start. I'm one of William's sons, who was also on the video here. I got my start in the studio. I apprenticed when I was starting when I was 15. And then after doing the kind of a traditional apprenticeship at the studio, I went to art school to study traditional oil painting. And so now working at the studio and then making my own paintings, I have continued to love both mediums. In this particular show, I'm presenting only paintings. Yeah, this is a piece I made. A lot of my work is narrative. Almost everything I do is figuratively based. But the piece behind me is called Found. And this is actually, it's a fairly complicated little story. But all the pieces of it have a symbolic meaning. So this is supposed to be a girl who's gone over and worked in probably the sex trade over in Europe or the West. And you can tell from the tags on the bag where she originated. It just says Manila, the Philippines. And then there's Amsterdam, just because it's a stereotype when somebody thinks of the sex trade. Not that I have anything negative to say whatsoever about Amsterdam, or I'm just using stereotypes because it's the most easily read. She's supposed to have come home, and you can see her leaning against the wall here, kind of contemplating, like, was this journey worth it? She's wearing, jewelry and has name brands. And she's probably come home because of a family member has passed away, and now she's kind of re-invited into the family life. However, you can see down on the bottom here, you have a cat and a very small mouse that's nibbling on a piece of food. That kind of is a micro picture of what this is supposed to symbolize. So the mouse is content with its little piece of cheese, its prize, but doesn't realize it's prey to a much bigger beast. The same way I think that sometimes people pursue financial gain and don't think of the cost. I don't want my work to be viewed as judgments on people. I want them to just be observations, and that somebody can look at them and then have, well, how does that apply to myself? We may not all be blitz drunk with a bunch of bills at the end of the month, but we may sit there and be like, I really want to treat myself, even though I probably should pay off a credit card instead. I'd rather go out and buy, a really expensive meal or a new purse. And again, I'm not making any judgments on those. And the same with the female figure here. A lot of times we all do jobs that, not in my case, I love my day job, but many of us do jobs that we never intended to do, but you ended up doing them because you needed the money. And I think at some point you turn around and you wonder, was it worth it? Did I give up a dream for stability and security? And I guess that's kind of what this piece is all about.
My name is William James Lupkin, and I'm a glassblower. I received my degree in a Bachelor of Fine Arts from Ball State University with a concentration in glass. I grew up in my father's traditional stained glass studio, and that's where I learned the principles of design and color in glass. And then I decided to incorporate that into my blown glass art, but try and add my own modern contemporary twist on that. So my father is incredibly good at stained glass and mosaics, and being the youngest of all the kids, I kind of had to do something different since everybody else has excelled in their own way or another. Well, I had to do something different that I could excel at myself. So when I learned that Ball State had a glass department and a blown glass department, I got very interested in it because it's something different. For blown glass, there is a very long learning curve in order to get used to dealing with the heat and dealing with the fact that more often than not, it's going to break, and if something goes bad, well, you probably just have to let it shatter on the ground and start again, which most artists don't want to let go of what they're making. For what I do, you have to be very okay with letting it go. So for my thesis of my undergrad at Ball State University, I decided to try and create a design series, something that is different and contemporary and marketable and functional. And the color palette that I decided to go with was white with this crazy wrap is what it's called, because it's so sporadic and something that's similar, but you will never be able to match it again. And so that's where the color line for this series of vessels came from.
From all of us Lupkins to all of you, thank you for coming. We want to thank Moontree Studio for having us here, and to all our good friends over at Ancilla Domini, thank you so much. Come out and enjoy all this wonderful art.